Hello and welcome to my video on hydrating brightening vitamin C serum. I'm gonna start off, pardon my voice, I have a bit of flu so my voice isn't so good, but I'm gonna start off by weighing out all my ingredients and I will drop details of these in the text. So I will start off by weighing out my MSM, which is a soothing anti-blemish hydrating agent, and for this purpose I'll be using 10 grams. That's 10 grams, and I'll keep that aside. The next thing I'll be weighing out is my niacinamide, and I will be weighing out 5 grams of that. So I'll be weighing out 5 grams of niacinamide, and niacinamide is an antioxidant, blemishing or blemish control and soothing agent. 5 grams. And I'll set that aside. The next thing I'll be weighing out is my tranexamic acid, and tranexamic acid is a skin brightening and discoloration agent. For that I will need 5 grams. Five grams. And the next thing I'll be weighing out is my DMI, which is penetration enhancer, which helps to draw in whatever it is you want or most of your agents into your formula or into the skin, makes it work better. So for this I will need 3 grams. Then I will now be weighing out my allantoin powder, which is a soothing agent. And I will need 0.3 grams of this. Exactly, perfect. Set that aside. And then I'll be weighing out my sodium lactate. Sodium lactate. And sodium lactate is a humectant and buffer, and I will need 5 grams of this. Okay. Five grams. So I'll put that aside. My sodium lactate. Next thing I'll be weighing out is my SAP, sodium ascorbyl phosphate, which is an antioxidant. And for this I will need 10 grams. And I'll set that aside. The next thing I'll be bringing out is my silk peptide. And I will need 8 grams of that. Please don't waste time. Exactly. Fantastic. So that's 8 grams. I set that aside. Next powder I'll be weighing out is my Snow White powder, which is an anti-blemish skin brightening active. And for that I will need 5 grams. Exactly. The next powder, or the next thing I'll be weighing out is my rose water, and I will need 40 grams of this. Forty grams, and I'll set that aside. The next thing I'll be weighing out is my EDTA. Something I do not like weighing out that much because it's so light and it's always difficult to. So this is my gelatin agent, and we will need just a little tiny weeny bit, 0.2 grams. Zero point 0.2 grams. My next It's ferulic acid, which is an antioxidant, and I will need 0.5 grams. Zero point 0.3, 0.5 grams. And I'll set that aside as well. Then my next weighed out ingredient will be my butylene glycol. And this is a solvent stroke humectant. And I will need 3 grams of this. Three grams. Set that aside. Still extract. For my snail extract, I will need 2 grams of that, and it's a soothing hydrating agent. 2 grams of that. And I also need 2 grams of my rice extract. Exactly 2 grams. 2 grams. Set that aside. I think we're almost done. The last item to weigh out is the Gemal Plus, and that would be 0.5, and my hyaluronic acid 0.5 as well. What I also always like to do is pour out a little bit of my rose water into the hyaluronic acid and let it dissolve the hyaluronic acid while every other thing is taking place, because it takes a while for this to dissolve properly. .5 for my hyaluronic acid. I'll set that aside, and just keep that aside. And for my liquid Gemal Plus, I will also need 0.5 of this. It's always the problem. It's always too thick. So Gemal Plus 0.5, I'll set that aside. And then we start the formulation. This was the toughest, is always the toughest part. Getting everything out, weighed out and all. So like I mentioned, I always like to take a bit of my rose water and pour in my hyaluronic acid into it to allow it soak up. And I'll just leave it there while every other thing is taking place, just so that it absorbs in and does its magic. So when I'm ready to come back and use it. So let that just sit there, mix up, and I will come back for it. I'm just going to set this aside and allow it absorb in and dissolve as much as possible while I go ahead with the formulation. I'll just leave that up there to soak up. So I'm going to start off now with presetting some things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix my sodium latte plus my DMI, set it aside. And I have a pen here so that I can label that there. And then I'll mix my rice filtrate and snail filtrate and set that aside as well. So the rice and the snail, these are both of them. I'll mix that together and set it aside. So I'll just label this here, rice plus snail. And then my sodium lactate plus DMI. And I also mix that aside. So my sodium lactate plus my DMI, I'm gonna put that together and set that aside. And I'll just label that as well. Sodium lactate plus DMI. Plus DMI. Then I'm gonna go in now with my EDTA plus rose water plus snow white powder, and I will dissolve till clear. I will also, this is also considered part of my heating phase. So while that will be heating, I will pause the video for that to heat and dissolve, but I'm gonna turn in my snow white powder into my, this is my snow white into my rose water. And then also my EDTA. So I'm gonna put this on heat and let that dissolve for a while. Well, dissolve totally till it is clear. As you can see, it's a bit cloudy. So when this is clear, I will come back and I'm just gonna pause the video here. So this The Snow White powder and the Snow White powder EDTA is completely dissolved now. And another trick I found out is that to help this dissolve, you can add drops of lye solution, which I prepared earlier and kept. So this will have to cool to 46 degrees. And while I'm letting that cool, I'm gonna continue with the rest of my formulation. I'm gonna set this aside to continue cooling, and then I'll come back to it. So while that is cooling, it's completely clear. The whole Snow White powder is completely dissolved. While that is cooling, I'm gonna add my SAP plus silk peptide and set it aside. What I've noticed with my experiment is that this helps the formulation not to oxidize. I just found out from trial and error. I don't know if it's documented anywhere but I just noticed that it helped my formulation not oxidize. So this is my silk peptide, and I'm going to be pouring in my SAP into it gradually, and I'll set that aside. I'm going to just mix that together, set it aside gradually. Oh, this thing is recording, okay. I'll just mix this up properly, and I'll set that aside. I think most of it is dissolved now, so I'll just set this aside, and I'll check on my rose water and Snow White solution to see where the temperature is at. We need it to be at least 46. It's still hot. So it's around 48 at the moment, so I'll still leave that to cool. And I'll leave that aside. Then I'm gonna also now mix my ferulic acid and my butylene glycol together. Butylene glycol. Like I said, I noticed that lye solution is a lifesaver for so many things. Anything that's not dissolving, I just introduce drops of light solution to it, and then at the end of my formulation, I just either step it up or step it down the pH to the desired pH. And so I'm gonna keep stirring this. So I'm gonna check up on my rose water again to just see where we are. It's 46.8, so let's just give it like 1 more minute, and then we'll see where we are. I just pause to keep stirring. So this is 46 degrees now, and at this point I'm going to add the MSM now to it to dissolve, and then I'll let it cool to 33 degrees. I'm gonna let this cool to 33 degrees, and then I'll add the remaining ingredients. So this is 37 degrees, still needs a bit of time to dissolve, or to cool rather. So I'll just pause the video till the temperature goes down to 33 degrees. So we have this cool down to 33 degrees. 33 degrees, and at this point I'm gonna add in my tranexamic acid and stir until it completely dissolves. the function of all of these things, even though I mentioned it earlier when I was weighing them out, I will still or the use function, I will still have that in my formulation text. So this I will have to stir till it dissolves completely. And when it dissolves, I'm gonna go in with my niacinamide and I will stir it till it's totally dissolved as well. This particular phase requires a lot of stirring, but we do not give up. We stir. I always have to lift it up because the surface is white, so I can see what's going on properly. So got a bit of undissolved particles in there. So I stir. That is completely dissolved, and I'm going to go in now with my niacinamide and stir as well till completely dissolved. Oh, that dissolved a lot faster than I thought. Then I'm gonna add my sodium lactate plus DMI mix, the one I set aside earlier on, into the mix. Then I'm gonna add my allantoin. And mix till completely clear. Then I will go in with I'll just stir it some more because it's still at the base. We need this to be completely clear. Then I'm gonna go in with my rice filtrate and snail filtrate, which I did mix together and set aside earlier. So that is completely dissolved, and I'm gonna go in with my rice filtrate and snail filtrate and mix together. I like to scrape as much as I can, so I'll get all of that out. And then I will mix. And now I'm gonna go in with my ferulic acid and the butylene glycol mix. I'll just do this to get that out properly. This will give it a yellow tint because of the ferulic acid. So I'm just doing this to get this out completely. And I'll mix. So now before adding my SAP and silk peptide, I'm going to check the pH. If the pH is below 7, it will degrade. So I'm going to come in now with my pH meter. I'm going to add a bit of distilled water. So let's check this and see what's going on. So right now the pH is 11.68, which is okay. It's not below 7, so we will just continue with our formulation. So now I'm going to add my SAP. So this is my SAP plus my silk peptide. I'm going to put that in now. And I'll stir. And I'm going to stir this till the formula is clear. And I will check the pH. Okay, still not below 7, so that's fine. So now I'm going to adjust this pH to, we need it to be between 7.02 and 7.2, which is like perfect. So to do this, I'm going to adjust it with citric acid, which I also have prepared down. I usually have my lye and citric acid prepared. So I'm going to add, this is my citric acid. I'm going to just add a few drops to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's coming down. You still need to add some more. So 15 drops so far. Let's come down to it's still not coming down. About 40 drops so far. Okay, it's coming down now. We need it to get down to 7 or 7.2 at the most. Okay. Okay. It's dropping. Seven 7.4, almost there. I think we're good. So this is 7.07. So at this point now, I'm gonna add the preservative. That's my Gemma Plus. And I'm gonna introduce my hyaluronic acid. Remember that I set it aside to dissolve a bit. So I'm gonna do some mixing here first. If I take her into the main mix, just get it to dissolve as much as possible. But going forward, I will try to use liquid hyaluronic acid going forward. So I'll just mix as much as I can. So that has been dissolved to my best capabilities. I'm going to turn that in here now, and I'm going to stir some more. Even though I do have amber bottles, but the idea is to store it first in these transparent containers so that way I can observe and see if it oxidizes, if this changes color by tomorrow morning or in a week time. But I will still store it in a dark place. But for the purpose of observation, I'm going to just have that in here for a couple of days just to make sure that the formulation doesn't oxidize. The idea is to have this serum in this color and hope that it doesn't change color. So that is my brightening vitamin C serum. Thank you.